All right, call this board work session to order at 6:01 PM. Roll call, please.
Reverend Eilert,
Here?
Mrs. Jaranek,
Here.
Mrs. Mangan,
Here.
Dr. Swetchenow,
Here.
Mrs. Washburn.
She will not be joining us tonight. She had conflict. Adoption of the agenda that was sent out.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, man, I think it's too fast.
The paper agenda, there's one item that's removed from the paper agenda. It's updated on the, so 3.4 that you see in your paper agenda we'll cover at our next meeting. And so that's not what we're approving. Make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, we motion to approve the agenda then?
So moved again.
And second.
Thanks. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert.
Yes. Thank you. You have minutes from our April 15th meeting in board docs. Any additions, corrections to the minutes as presented?
Nope.
Motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek, sorry.
Yes.
A skip.
Reverend Jared? All right, then the most important thing we will do tonight,
Goodness.
our approval of the 2025 Loveland High School graduates. You have a long list there.
Motion.
Yes.
So moved. And second.
Great. Any discussion, any potential people we want to withdraw from our list?
No.
No.
May 18th at 8 o'clock. It's a tough time, but see
Yeah.
everybody there.
What is the count?
Good question. I don't know if we have a total.
I don't think it has a total.
Yeah, it's a PDF, so I can't.
Yeah, yeah, so we don't know. All right, a lot of kids.
Over 300.
I would say it's over 300.
Yep.
Great. All right, roll call, please.
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes?
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan.
Yes.
Great, thanks. And moving on to some treasurer business.
Yes, thank you very much. Item 1 is going to be payment in lieu of the pilot payments. Now, we've talked about how we're going to be reworking this. Obviously, as we've had some of these additional requests, they're coming in far after the year has started. So we've worked with our legal counsel on that. We're going to be rolling that out. I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Ossie in June, early June. We're going to be covering a number of topics, and this is one of them. So hope to have these all in the first half of the year at the very least.
Yeah, fantastic. We have a motion to approve these additions to the pilot.
So moved.
And second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Yes.
Thanks. And next we have item 3.2, a approval of the new account. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, we're just setting up a teaching professions account so they can do fundraisers and kind of have their own standalone account at the high school. We typically bring these to you at the organization meeting, but because we have an additional one here, we wanted to have it approved by the board.
Great. Any idea how many kids are engaged in that at all?
I'm not sure. I did get the request from Mr. Spencer, and also the advisor is going to be Elizabeth Potts. So I'm sure that I can get some more information if you'd like.
It's usually one class. It's usually about 25 to 30 kids.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great. All right, we have a motion to approve.
So moved. And second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Reverend Eilert,
Yes.
Mrs. Jaranek,
Yes.
Mrs. Mangan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, next our meaty item of the evening.
Yes, so this is a resolution to move the remaining funds in our bond fund, that are kind of sitting there dormant as we've made our last debt payment. We're able to kind of repurpose those for, other building projects that we would have in the district, in terms of what would meet the initial, request from our taxpayers in terms of the bond. And so we have some items specifically that are gonna fall into this, with some building of storage facilities to help alleviate the high school storage that's internal in the building, that we'll be bringing to you on the May 20th meeting. We'll also be discussing it with the facilities committee as well on Friday, in terms of the bids that we've put out and received and kind of what those might look like. So this is just to essentially allow us to transfer the funds from the bond fund into the PI fund. This is not the only part of this process. This has to go to the Budget Commission. They have to approve it. And then we would send it out to all of the kind of the auditors at the 3 counties that we fall into. And then once we're given the ability to by the Hamilton County Budget Commission, we would transfer the funds. So this is step 1.
Just looking at this Hamilton County Budget Commission, this is a note that you're planning to send tomorrow. Do we know when they meet, or like what the timeline of this looks like?
Yeah, they have defined meetings. There's gonna be, I believe they have a meeting in May, but they for sure have one that's at the end of June, which is why we have to have our meeting at a certain time at the end of the year. So at the very latest, I would imagine this would be seen at the end of June.
And we need that step before it goes to the other county commissions?
Yeah, the other one is just a formality. Really, the Hamilton County Budget Commission is gonna be the one that approves this.
All right.
Great. Are we, well, we'll talk about facilities before we come back to the next meeting. All right, any other questions about this particular action? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Jeremiah,
Yes.
Mrs. Megan,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Reverend Eiler.
Yes. Thank you. As you said, we have looked at some preliminary drawings for these and a previous facilities meeting, and want to take a look at where the final drawings were that went out to bid, and then look at those bids, and then we'll bring that all back to the meeting next time. And then talk through a little bit, what that finance looks like, particularly if the funds haven't, we don't know that these funds go in, we have the PI funds regardless. Or,
We have other unencumbered funds,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
that was a question I had with the last resolution
Yeah.
as well, so.
yeah.
So as long as we have unencumbered funds, and we do, we're good.
Okay.
So we can discuss that
Yeah.
then further.
Great. Great. All right, then we also have the acceptance of rates, tax rates as presented.
Yep, so this is presented to us by the Hamilton County Budget Commission and the Auditor's Office. They present the rates on the collections to be able to meet the needs, and obviously there's, this takes into account like House Bill 920 and any of those changes that would have happened. So really, this is just a formality for us to have to bring to you and have you approve. So they'll collect property taxes and then disperse them to us. They're also doing this on a calendar basis of 2026. So we operate on that fiscal year. This is really calendar year that we're approving.
So if this, just thinking about this process, what had been proposed by the House that the Senate's now looking at in terms of the 30% cap, is this where that would hit then in terms of, if they deemed our district to be having over 30% in reserves, that this would be the process, the point at which they would say, we're going to reduce the rate for this next year to.
Yes, I would assume so, but I was in a meeting about 2 weeks ago with the county auditor at Hamilton County ESC, and we asked that question in a room full of treasurers and some superintendents as well. we asked that question and the answer was that they didn't really know how they were going to apply it. So I think that it was, there was discussion there at that meeting that there were, I believe, 22 items that were proposed by county auditors as well as a committee that was put together for tax relief. And none of the things that made it into House Bill 96 are one of those 22.
Right.
So, I think that there's still a lot to be said. We're hoping that that doesn't go into effect because every district has its own story and why its cash balance might be at a certain level. And so we're again lobbying against that going into effect. But the short answer is they don't know how they're going to apply it.
And I saw the testimony that you sent, and I hadn't thought about that, they're taking the way that language is in House Bill 96 right now, they're taking the snapshot at June 30th, and then, but the receipt, and then they would reduce the property tax bill by that much, but then that's really for 18 months
Yeah.
later, so it's really illogical.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just.
There are some
I mean,
districts.
you would assume that's the way it's gonna work, but just, yeah.
Correct, there are some districts that would have zero property tax income because the state funding is making up a portion of their funding and leading to their cash balance. The other issue with looking at a snapshot of a cash balance is it's not taking into account cash flows. So,
Right.
that time of the year is probably one of the higher, but you also have points where you're continuing to pay stretch pay into the next 2 months because you're paying off essentially work that has already been done to be able to stretch the, teacher's pay and those employees that don't work 12 months. You're also paying those benefits. So there's an obligation, a salary obligation and a benefit obligation on June 30th that's not really being taken into account.
Yep.
Isn't that also though, in just my simplified reading of it, once you bring in a levy and you bring in a higher cash balance than you're spending, doesn't that put almost everybody over that limit as when a levy's passed initially?
So we're at 31.4%,
Right.
and we're in the bottom 22%.
Yeah.
I think you have to go around 15% before you start to see districts that are falling at or below. But typically districts that are at or below, especially if they're further below, have other issues. And one thing that I'm going to bring up to the Finance Committee this month is the Auditor of State has also now released financial health indicators, and it's I believe 16 points that we're working through right now to see exactly how we would fall, but they're essentially indicators, and if you don't meet so many of them, you would be put on a watch list.
And one's having a healthy cash balance?
One is deficit spending, and so yes, so it's a little bit challenging. Especially, it's always challenging when you're going to a biennial budget, because the next meeting, you're gonna hear the 5-year forecast and hear my presentation of that. And so, my plan right now is to build that off of what we currently know House Bill 96 to be. I'm sure it's gonna change right at the last minute and give me a few more gray hairs before I present it to you. But, that's kind of where we're planning on, going right now in terms of projections.
Okay.
It's probably also good that there have been a number of auditors that have spoken out against this particular proposal.
Yes.
Well, they are not supportive of this. As you said, they had other things that they thought you could do to give property tax relief, but this was not one that they feel is advisable.
I think the question also begs, if a district falls below, but then is above, but then falls below the next year, do the rates adjust back up? That's a question that I think a lot of us have.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well, to be continued.
Yeah. Thank you both for your ongoing advocacy, and continue to urge all of our taxpayers out there to be good advocates. And I know we've got at least one resident of Loveland that's headed up to testify, correct? You said tomorrow or the next day?
I believe tomorrow, yes.
So, yeah. To the board, I sent my letter into the education committee today, I'll copy it to you. And Mr. Espy and I have talked about going up on the 14th to have a discussion as well with testimony. But working on that, and individuals I've run into even today were knowledgeable of it and had sent letters in as well, so we appreciate whatever the community does.
And I also want to point out, I've had several emails of community members that have sent stuff and also, or sent things in, and also sent me the replies that they got. So I just want to thank everyone in the community that is reaching out and telling our story.
Yeah, and our representatives are listening. I talked to one of our members who talked to one of our senators, and Senator Wilson, I believe it was, and he called from vacation, he was on the beach, and they talked for like an hour while he was on the beach, and had a substantive conversation, so, it's, yeah, good to hear. All right, do we have, I don't think we voted on this yet, right? But
I'll
we need a motion
motion,
still.
yeah, I'll move, so moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor
We
of,
can do a roll call.
a roll call, sorry,
Yeah.
of the resolution to approve the tax rates as presented.
Dr. Swetchino,
Yes.
Reverend Eiler,
Yes.
Mrs. Jernick,
Yes.
Mrs. Megan.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I believe that is it for our agenda. Are any other discussion items, correct? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 6:18 PM.
Not a record, but pretty good.
17 minutes.